All right, welcome to the Business Growth Masterclass, where business growth is made simple. Listen as we talk through how to increase your profits, streamline your operations, and ultimately create healthier, more stable, and more valuable companies. In today's episode, we interview my good friend, Cole Whisenhunt. Cole is a realtor here in Lubbock, Texas, and the owner and leader of the Whisenhunt group at Keller Williams. The conversation was so much fun. It was so deep. Cole is one of the most authentic. We say that a million times in the podcast, but it's so true. He's one of the most authentic people that I know that really just tries to serve people everywhere he goes. Some of my favorite takeaways in this episode that I think you get a lot out of is how intentional Cole has been in creating a business that fits his lifestyle, that fits the priorities in his life. And so many business owners go into business to make sure that they're at every football game or every t-ball game, to make sure they're there for every birthday party and for every family event. And we lose sight of that as business owners. When things get tough, if you aren't intentional with that, you build essentially a prison sentence where you are tied to the business, where you have to go, you have to perform, you have to do all of these things, or so you think. And Cole is really intentional with that. And, I'm not going to give it all away, but he has so many practices and tactics that he is constantly working on and implementing, because he is a high performer. He's not just leaving the office early to go take a nap, but he's really intentional with that. And I think you'll get a lot out of that. A lot of self-reflection, a lot of really examining yourself. Anyway, I think you'll like it. Enjoy the episode. All right, we're live. Welcome to the podcast, Cole Whisenhunt. How are you?
Glad to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Before I let you talk, I want to make you uncomfortable.
Come on.
I really admire you. I've got to, see you from afar through relationships, through Tanner and the McNutts and just different people around town that speak highly of you, and got to spend some time with you in coaching the last year with Kathy Crockett.
Yeah.
And man, I just admire how you carry yourself. Like, obviously, like, you pursue excellence in everything you do, from your family to fitness to your business. And with that, like, your faith is a part of that. And man, you're good people and give me feelings talking about it, but really like I admire you so much and really just want to get more of your story. You're a humble guy. And I, getting you to brag about yourself. Like I didn't even know you were on a reality TV show until
wasn't that big deal.
Until 2 months ago. And anyway, welcome to the podcast, Cole. I'm excited to have you, man.
Yeah. Thanks for the kind words. You're a great host. Ready to get started. All the things you said, right back at you, man. Enjoy seeing you living life.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into it. What do you do for a living? What is your career?
Okay. Career, being in real estate. I have a residential real estate team. In life, wife, Abby. We've been married 15 years. We were just talking about this before coming on. Celebrated that this last week, which is great. We've got 4 kids. They're 11, 8, 6, and 4. So, man, most days are spent working hard, running home to get a kid, practice, game, get home, spend the rest of the time with family. It's the best.
And you are coach of everything, right?
I like to be. Yeah. I don't know if everybody else likes it that way, but for sure, basketball, flag football, right up my alley, man. I don't know if there's anything else I'd rather be doing than in a gym for 13 games on a Saturday, coaching some kids.
Did you grow into that, or is that something you've always wanted to do? How did that come about? I mean, obviously you played, but yeah. How do you just dive off into every single sport your kids do?
Asking about career, So before real estate, I was a coach.
Okay.
So coached basketball, coached football, all the sports, right, when you're at high school level. I went to Texas Tech here for business. And then halfway through, I was like, what am I doing? I don't want to do business. This sounds so boring. I'm going to go coach. And so I finished my business degree because I was already halfway through that, but then just added a little bit towards the end as a minor and took a test online post-bachelor and became certified to teach. Went into coaching. I've always loved coaching. I've always loved the game. I think it's one of those things as an athlete when you're not quite as tall as everybody, as strong as everybody, as whatever you want to put it, fill in the blank there, that I was not. It's how do you stay ahead of people mentally in the game and strategically? And so that's a coach, right?
Yeah.
So you're trying to put people in positions to succeed. And with the kids, it's so much fun to be able to do that and watch them and their minds start to turn and how this all works together, pieces to the puzzle. So that's it. And that also relating to business, right? So that just continues in going into business and how do you coach people and put the pieces of the puzzle together.
What subject did you teach in high school?
History.
History.
You already know. I'm a coach.
Dude, yeah.
So
that's like the prototype of a high school coach is the history professor.
Oh, but it's embarrassing how much history I forgot. So as my kids get older and they ask about questions, I'm like, oh, yeah, I used to teach that. And I don't remember it. So, man, I love history, but also in teaching how much I've forgotten. So that was it.
Okay. You mentioned basketball. Basketball is your sport. When I see you walk through the door.
Yeah, you can be honest about that.
I mean, we're both average size, slightly below average size bros. Yeah. You know, I don't think basketball player.
For sure.
So, and prior to watching the reality show, which
you now watched,
which I've now seen every episode, I had no idea how, much of a competitor and basketball player you are. So tell me a little bit about the basketball career.
Man, this is going to be a short career to tell you about, but I love playing just from a young age. I just loved basketball. Grew up in a small town, playing the game. As you get older, start to go to different towns, play with different people. I've been known as an intense competitor.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's one of those when I won't say my height and weight, nobody needs to know that, but a smaller guy on the court, right? You've got to have some grittiness and you got to have some toughness. Mm. And so I think that is one thing that developed through sports. And so as you talk about sports with kids and why I also love coaching is to see kids get over those hurdles or they're scared to do something or not very tough or hurt all the time or whatever it is. And the next year they bounce back and they're like, dude, that kid's getting tough. I feel like I live that story of playing football, smaller guy playing football, basketball, and, at my height and you're going to guard somebody 6'5", you at least better be tough and skilled. That's it, man. So played in high school, had a good career there, had fun, lifelong best friends I still have from playing with, and then tried to play at Tech, right? So after practicing 3 or 4 weeks, got cut. Amazing experience. Coach Knight, the team were great to be around. Coach Beard was on staff at that time, right? So getting to know him. So when he came back, that was fun, and that ended poorly for us, so we won't go there. But man, that was it. That's the basketball career, and now it's coaching my kids, which is way better.
I love it. And as a fellow small guy, being gritty, being that tenacious, having to learn that is, man, there's a dad from my hometown that I really look up to. He's an incredible father, and he has 4 kids, all amazing students, amazing athletes, but also like amazing Christian people. And I had a lunch with him and I was asking him, like, man, terrible question. Like, how do you do it? How did you raise kids like that? And when we were talked about sports, to him, sports are a place for his kids to learn how to work with others, how to develop a growth mindset, how to develop grit, and then to have fun in intramurals if they decide to go to college. Like sure. It's not this dream of being a pro athlete as a dad. Yeah. It's how can we instill those character traits that, we need to be fully functioning adults.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. Building them up through sports. It's awesome.
Yeah. And I'll get off the podcast, or not the podcast, the reality show soon. But dude, the tenacity there, like it started out as like a group of 20.
I mean, it started with like a couple hundred.
Oh my goodness.
And
Okay.
then it got cut down to, 150, 100, 64, 32, 24, 20. And then they named 4 alternates and took 16 to start filming the show.
Mm.
Yeah.
And you were in the last 4, which, dude, that made me so proud watching that. Like just
20 years later, I'm so proud.
Just a wiry little, just a fiery little dude. And I love it. And I'm sure you use so much of that mindset and the character that you build through that in coaching, in business. I mean,
sure. I mean, you can think back to whether it's Coach Knight or any coach that you have, right, and through whatever sport or bull riding or whatever it was, right? I mean, it all translates. I remember Coach Knight telling us, it's like, there's nothing you can do about basketball when you're in class. Focus on class. When you're in class, there's nothing you can do about basketball. Focus on that, right? Mm-hmm. Wherever you're at, be all in there. And so when you're talking about, okay, we're dads, we're husbands, we're business leaders or entrepreneurs or all these different facets that you want to be associated with or set on boards or foundations. And it can be overwhelming when you let it all start to sink in. Instead, it's like, I am sitting at this podcast right now with you. Everything else got to go away. Right. So yeah, coaches time after time, right? So that's why it's so motivating to coach kids. Like, what one little thing could you say that's going to stick with them for a lifetime? And there's so many quotes from coaches that, even why I know Christ today in the way that I do, and the love that was shared with me was from a coach, so my life would look different without him in my life. It's amazing. So here we are, we're coaching and again, translating into the business world. It's business. At the end of the day, it's, I dare to say it's a playground. I mean, it's our atmosphere to really glorify what we believe in our faith and then build people up. That's it.
Okay. Next stage. When did you leave coaching? And was there a story there? How did you walk away from coaching?
Man, I loved coaching. I was at Escada High School here in Lubbock. Loved it. Tony Wagner, the head coach there. Loved working with him, for him. We had Crosby, our oldest daughter, who's now 11. And I was leaving to go to work and she was not awake. And I was coming home and she was asleep. It's like, man, I'm not seeing her. And as much as I loved coaching, I also did not want to chase head coaching jobs all over the state. We loved our friends here. We loved our church here. And so the question became, what would I do to keep us here that would not be coaching? And the first time I brought that up to my wife, I think she's like, what? You're not going to coach? And even to friends when they found out as I made a transition. But it was, okay, I can share and serve and love people through a lot of different platforms, right? And right now I'm going to think about my family and I want to be around more. And it's not a shot to, I know a lot of coaches. I have best friends that are still coaches, right? They have 4 very special years with their kids, whether they get in high school or smaller schools, they're around them all the time. For me personally, just like, man, I want to change that and interact in a different way day to day. And so it was, what can I do to serve, love, and be with people all the time, right? That's the first question. The next question was, how can I be rewarded for the hard work that I put in and I get to see the difference also in a financial means? Mm-hmm. So in coaching, the coaches next door sitting there on their desk, not doing anything, teaching, not caring about the grades that kids have, we're getting paid the same thing. So what can I go do where maybe there's more risk, working fully off commission, and yet there's also a reward to be had, right? So those were a couple of things there. Called up Tara Newton here in town, who's the CEO of Keller Williams Realty. Her and Abby, my wife, were best friends in junior high. And so I always heard Tara talking to people about real estate. And so I call them like, hey, you always talk to people about real estate, but you never asked me. You think I wouldn't be any good at it? She's like, no, I just never thought you would not do something besides coaching, which is another lesson in itself, right? It's like sometimes we have things right there, people right there, but we already have our mind made up about how they wouldn't do that. Mm-hmm. We don't know where they're at in their life and story. And so Tara gets to share that now, and it's fun that we joke around about it. She's like, I'll just come to your house and talk to you about it. So she comes over. This is on a whim. I'm like, okay, can I control my own hours? Can I make double what I'm making right now in salaries I shared with her? And, just freedom of time, run my own business, things like that. And she's like, yes, yes, and yes. Like, oh, my last question was, do you think I'd be good at it? She's like, yeah, absolutely. So that was the transition. I decided right then and there, I was like, okay, I'm doing it. And Abby looked at me like, wow, you're doing that. So made the transition to real estate. And 30 days later, we had our graduating class go through. And then that Monday, I was in the office of real estate.
Man, okay, jumped in with both feet.
Yeah.
I mean, you are like a high performer. I know that from the time we got to spend together the last year. Like you're a very, like, you're putting in the work, but at the same time, you wanted to, I got a sneeze sitting there. You wanted to design a life that you could spend more time with your family.
Mm-hmm.
So talk me through that. And I think, the typical listener of our podcast is, a business owner, business leader. How do you create a business? How do you create like a work day and a work week that you can get the results that you're trying to get? I mean, you're a high performer, but at the same time prioritizing the right things. How do you do that?
Still trying to figure part of that out, right? It's just life, part of the journey. And even now, so as we're talking here, it's been a focus quite a bit lately for me, and reevaluating that and saying the things that I wanted previously, have those changed? And the time constraints that I'm setting, can I accomplish what I want to for our family? And if we can't, either we have to put more time in or become more efficient. So which one do I want to do? Well, there's an obvious answer there. I don't want to spend more time at work, right? And I've heard this said many times, especially when you're in sales and you're on your deathbed or close to, you're not going to say, I wish I would have got one more sale. It's going to be, I'm glad I did not miss that birthday or that trip or that vacation, or I regret that I did. And so just going back to that and saying, well, I'm not going to do that, right? I don't miss my kids' games. I love coaching them. I love being involved. If something important, I'm going to be there. So I think a couple of things is, one, being flexible, and especially in marriage, where it took a couple of years for Abby and I to get in a rhythm of that, right? Is I'm going to make the kids' Christmas party at 10 a.m. at school, but it does mean I'm going to work until 7 p.m. tonight. And us being on the same page of that in marriage. And Abby is so good at that now, and just so kind and generous with time and flexible and all those things. And if I say that I need to do something, she just trusts, okay, that's what needs to be done. So I think that trust in our marriage has been huge. She's been such a great partner for that. The other thing is the efficiency that we're talking about. Is if we're really going to spend time with family, and I know I'm leaving Thursday for Red River with my family and going to be on vacation, I'm going to knock it out of the park Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And not that I can't answer some phone and check email and do some things there in a prescribed time that I'm giving, then go spend time with family. But man, you got to look at it, I think, a week ahead, a month ahead, plan ahead, and then really even reevaluating right now in this time of life with 4 kids, the age that they're at, can I pull back on some goals that I have professionally and that be okay? And man, I think we just got to look at that all the time. So weekly, I just have some reflection questions I may look at and say, how am I doing in that space?
Okay. That was my next question. What is frequency? So this is something you're looking at every week.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I could say I nail it every single week, but for sure, I have a coach. We're going to have a weekly phone call, right? So we're going to go over those things together where he helps hold me accountable. So we know
okay.
Most of the time we can have a game plan, but if there's not some built-in accountability, true accountability, then that game plan just gets put to the wayside, or you get 30%, 50% of it done. I consider 80% pretty successful. So for 80% plus, it's a good week. We're regularly going to be 100% if you're, really pushing high performance stuff, right? So that would be it. Once a week with coach, hold accountable, have some reflection questions. How did I do here in relationships with our team? How did I do in relationships with our family? How did I do with my time? Did I stick to my time block? What got in the way? Did I say yes to too many things? All those types of questions.
I love it. I love this. That being intentional. It makes me think of, we have a different practice in our household. My wife and I have monthly we call it monthly CFO meetings.
Yeah.
Where we sit down and we lay out our budget for the next month. And, obviously there's ebbs and flows, and we're talking about trips, and, both of our families live outside of the town where we live. And so there's typically travel, but we also look at the calendar, and we're looking at, my wife is an introvert. And so if we have weekends back to back that we're traveling, like, that's not great for her. Her energy is going to be depleted. We're probably going to be fussy with each other. And so really being intentional and communicating our needs. And, there are seasons where you just have to, like, being an entrepreneur, business owner, like, it's not a government job that you clock in and clock out at 9 to 5. Like right. Stuff happens. And, being able to walk in the door at 5 o'clock every day, sometimes things blow up on you, and you've got to solve and serve and do all the things. But man, I love how intentional you are evaluating yourself of, like, am I, giving everything, making everything the proper priority. And that, man, I love that. Very cool. Okay. So you are a realtor. Tell me about, what did the first year look like? Did you just hit the ground running and you're automatically top of the list in Lubbock, or what did that first year look like? How did you approach that season and navigate that season?
Yeah. Well, I remember getting into real estate. There's usually a lot of doubt when you're getting into real estate, right? By people that know you, people who are in the industry, like, you sure you want to do that? It's kind of harder than you think. You probably won't succeed. You hear a lot of that. You can imagine somebody who gets in, maybe your own doubt that you've had for some people, like, there's a lot of realtors out there. You sure? Mm-hmm. And so as you get in, you hear that. And I remember somebody saying, are you sure you're ready for these hours? And I was rolling through my head. Well, I remember I was driving a bus full of 40 high school kids until 2 a.m. And I got home, and you call in scores to the paper at midnight sometimes. And you're back up there at 6 a.m. doing laundry. I have to have lesson plans done for the teaching we have to get done. You're just rolling through your day. And then you're fully there to teach and pour into kids that way. With the real passion for me was coaching. Mm-hmm. So any extra time I have is, okay, we're coaching and we finished at 7:30. Well, some kids want to stay around and shoot. It's like, okay, they want to get better. I'll rebound for them. I'll do whatever. I'm going to draw some plays up, work extra footwork with somebody. Before you know, it's 8:30. You're giving a kid a ride home, and you get home at 9 o'clock. And so when somebody said, are you sure you're ready for these hours? I was like, I think I'm going to be okay. And so when you show up at 8 a.m. and the parking lot's empty, at a lot of real estate offices, mm-hmm. or it's 5 o'clock and you're leaving, or 6 o'clock, it's empty again. I just kind of have the bell schedule there. Right. Mm-hmm. And that was one for me that was built in from teaching, coaching. Like, well, what else am I going to do when I go home? Especially at that time when I originally got in, right? We had one child, and anyway, it was time to put in work and build that for the first year or two. So I was not scared to get in, roll up my sleeves, but this is so much about relationships. Mm. And when people ask me now, how did you get started fast? Partly to answer your question, I did have a pretty quick start. And my answer to them is, or maybe even question sometimes, is, were you a good friend before you got into real estate? Because if now all of a sudden you want to be a good friend because you're in sales, mm-hmm. people are going to know that. So
they're going to smell that.
Yeah. Part of that is, I can't do anything for you now. You can ask me what to do, but I hope you've been building that trust for years and years before this, because mm-hmm. it's going to matter. Mm-hmm. Right. So I think that was one thing, right? Just always caring about people, being a good friend. So when you get into a different industry and say, hey man, I'll serve you all out, people trust this to no matter what you're doing, and know that you'll look out for them. So man, I was fortunate enough to have a quick start. And the first full calendar year that I was in real estate, I helped 47 families buy or sell a home. And at that point in time, somebody had told me just before that, when I got into real estate, they said, soon enough, you'll be helping 3 families a month. And I was like, 3 families a month? Where is that going to come from? And before too long, as you start building a business, it's like, well, that would be disappointing now if that's all we did, right? And so, yeah, we got off to a quick start. Relationships, man, is where I went to immediately, and just start pouring into people. And one thing that I heard talking about a win in business is when I heard a year or two into real estate, my wife is telling people, man, I just get to see him being a good friend. He's just even a better friend being in this. And my mindset was every day is, I get to just check in with people on all the great stuff that's going on in life. They're going to buy or sell a house sometime in the next 10 years, whenever that is, year 2 or 8, I'll be here. But until then, man, how can I serve you? What can I do? What questions can I answer? But y'all having a baby, that's amazing. You got a promotion, that's amazing. You had a hard thing in life and there's a death in the family. I'm so sorry. Like, how can I be there to serve and help? And just through that attitude, man, and helping has been very rewarding to be in real estate.
That is one of the things I couldn't put words to earlier, that I admire about how you do business is, you are an authentic person everywhere you go. You do that. You do this well, and it seems like a superpower of yours that you really do have relationships all over that appear to be these like very authentic, caring, loving things. And none of it's salesy. None of it's like, hey, when it's time to list your house, give me a shout. Like you've never said that to me, but just like getting to know you and seeing how intentionally you approach, your marriage and your life and your business and everything. I'm like, dude, he's a rock star. And when that time comes, like that's a no brainer. And that's one of those things on especially in sales, like building a book of business, whether it's a realtor or selling roofs or whatever. Like it takes those 2 years of just grinding until you have a book of business.
Yeah. And one thing I'd say to that, like just some of those kind of things you said, is it's hard to go live something when you haven't had an example of that and somebody to show it to you. So there's so many people I've been so fortunate to be around, right? I'm sure you'd say some of the same things. So the examples that we've had to look at, you're just building on the traits or character that they've shown you.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not like you're starting from ground zero. I didn't start from ground zero. I feel like I had so many great people that showed me what hard work is, work ethic, initiative, staying true to your word, like those things, helping set people apart early on when you've already seen great examples. So plenty of those.
All right. So you've been doing this several years now, going from kind of those initial just grinded out years to where the business is today. I'm sure you had some days that were tough.
For sure.
Maybe tell us a story about one of those tougher seasons or bigger losses that you had and how you navigated that.
Yeah. Maybe a little backwards here, but in telling part of that story is I had quick initial success. And then you realize either my customer service is going to fall off or you just can't serve that many families. You just got to say, sorry, I don't want to let you down. I'm like, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to tell people, sorry, I can't serve you. And so you just have to grow yourself. And then you have to start to grow a team or have leverage, whatever that looks like. And so you've got to start trusting in others. And so some of those hard times when you're making those first hires, and it's the fear, right? Like John Maxwell always says, the best things are on the other side of fear, or some of the best stuff is uphill, and you don't get uphill on accident. You got to head that direction, be intentional about it. And so some of the harder things are in those initial hires and learning the gaps of my leadership and what I was not good at and still not good at in some areas. And then being okay with brutal honesty and asking for that. Or it took somebody leaving for me to figure out, man, I didn't give them enough direction, right? We loved each other as people. I just failed them in the day-to-day operation of, their direction. I've been guilty of giving too much autonomy or trust and be like, oh, you got it. I don't want to step on their toes. And they're going, I need you to help me. I need you to tell me a little more. And I'm thinking, oh, you don't want a boss that tells you everything to do. Like, I trust you. That's why you're here. I trust the person you are. You're just working through all those things, man. And so when you've trained up people, amazing people, still friends, but then, man, they take off to do great things and you feel like, take a step back. And now you got to train up that gap or that void again of leaders. And so you're constantly trying to find people, not only to train up, but then to retain. I mean, that's probably the hardest thing in growing the business is how much you want to see people succeed. And then when they do, how do you keep the world big enough they want to stay there and you continue to help them level up, right? Those would be the biggest challenges. And then the secondary piece of that outside of the team, right? You have clients and you have hard times when you sell a house for a record number per square foot in a neighborhood and get a lease back free for a month. And then they're at closing, having not very nice things to say. And you didn't work very hard to do this. And I'm like, dang it. We set a record on the highest price ever on your house and got an appraisal waived and all these things, right? Like it couldn't be any better. And yet to find out later, like, man, they were going through some stuff, right? In their marriage and personal life with other things. And somewhere frustration needed release somewhere. And at that time of life, like, this is me. You figure some of these things out later, but in the moment, you don't know a lot of that. And a book that stands out to me is Unoffendable.
Okay. I haven't heard of that one.
Okay. So Unoffendable. And it's just getting good at saying, I don't know everything that's going on there in their life. And it may be nothing. It may really be me. I may be the problem. And I don't need to be offended by that. I need to ask how I can get better. Or I just need to know there's nothing that I can do in this situation to make them better. And I got to go to sleep at night and let it go. And that's so hard to do, right? So you have so many of those stories of where you feel like you let people down or they're upset, but then 10 times more of the celebrations on the other side of, we couldn't have done this without you. This is way easier than we thought. We never would have started this process if we didn't know you. So man, I don't even remember the original question, man, of the hard stuff. Right. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's kind of one of those things where you just say it's all worth it for some of these minor problems and keeping perspective, by the way, to be able to help people celebrate in this way.
Okay. Tell me, I mean, for one, it's hard to hear, as a business owner, as a business leader, if your identity is in what you're doing for a vocation, what you're doing for a career, this baby that you've built, this business, if your identity is in that, I think hearing that hurts, it hurts more even so to navigate that well is hard. But it's such a important lesson for business owners is not having your identity in the results, because macroeconomic stuff happens.
Yeah.
There's going to be hard seasons. There's going to be better or easier seasons, but if your identity is wrapped up in the results and making everybody happy in every scenario, like you're just going to be miserable and you're going to wake up in the middle of the night and there's so much that comes from that keeping that in its proper place is an important lesson.
Yeah. I talk about that with salespeople a lot. Is usually there's two types of people that do really well in sales. It's either the people pleaser because they don't want to let people down, or the really competitive person because they just want to win. But either one of them can get to a bad spot, right? Like either I've let them down. What do they think of me? What do they think of me? Or the competitive person is, no, we're supposed to win. Right now we're losing. Or that was a loss somehow, or they think I'm not good enough, right? So you can go to both of those spots. And man, for a long time I was known an identity with basketball. And not that I was this amazing player, but just because I was in the gym everywhere, then a coach everywhere, and that was just the crowd. And now people who don't know that past, it's real estate. And either one of those, just trying to all the time be like, man, I don't want to be known for either one of those, right? And when you're a salesperson, it's probably not a popular thing to say, or you want everybody to think of you. And yes, we want to serve people. But at the end of the day, if the first thought that comes to somebody's mind about me is real estate, like, dang it, I would rather it be a dad who loves to coach his kids, a Christ follower that takes it seriously. Those things are way more important. Those are the type of reflection questions I feel like we got to ask ourselves, and that I would ask frequently is, what am I being viewed as first? And if that's not happening, is that a pride thing? Am I pushing something or an agenda? Or is it, whatever's getting in the way at the time? But man, we got to balance that out. Or not even balance it out. We got to make sure that's the priority, and our identity is not work in our sales.
You've obviously wrestled through some of the harder times, and you've built something. There's I don't know how many realtors in town, but there's not a lot of teams that have built a business that's made up of people doing what they're uniquely gifted to do. And so tell me a little bit about, like, what does your business look like today? What does the team look like? What are the pieces on that chessboard?
Yeah. And by the way, this is one of the most rewarding things when I think about it and just going to work is a person that fits their role, their personality, the joys of things that they like to do, and they get to run down that lane. And there's so many people in the entrepreneur world, they're on their own.
Mm-hmm.
So in the real estate world, it would be you're trying to create a flyer, you're trying to go get a key box, you're trying to show a house, you're trying to list a house, you're trying to make a video to post on social media, and you're just going to end up being maybe okay at all of them or really good at one or two things, but they're being drawn back because you're spending so much time and effort on the things you're not good at. And so to have somebody on our team, right, when you talk about an operations lane for us, we have an operations side of the team where we have a listing coordinator and a marketing coordinator, a transaction coordinator, and those pieces to help lead people from the background through the transaction with the title company, the lender, setting up the inspection, the home warranty, all those items that I'm not the best one suited for that, right? I'm still the front face or speaking person to the client to handle all those things. But behind the scenes, you have those people working on the operations side, and they are better than me at it. They're going to cross the T's and dot the I's and get the schedule and the organization, all those things better than I will. And on the flip side, you have the salespeople, right? Our operations team do not want to talk to people in sales. And so the salespeople, you have a job to be in relationship and connect with people. So we say all the time, real estate's a contact sport. You need to be out there with people, go be a friend. And so you've got to be the friend and you've got to be the expert. And if you're both of those things, you're going to get a lot of business. But first, go be a friend, build trust, and then they'll see the expert piece later when it's like, hey, we want to talk to you about our house. So our team looks like, as far as me with leading the team or financials or coaching the team or bringing other agents on that want to join our team. And then we have the operations team behind the scenes, marketing, listing, transactions, coordination, and then the sales agents on the other side.
Okay. So how many people are in your office right now?
We have 7.
7.
Yep.
It's a lot of people. It's a lot of families.
Man, it's the best part. So when you talk about wins, I mean, a few distinct stories. I just remember when somebody said, I have this debt that seems overwhelming, and they joined our team and we're going to get out of real estate, and they were going to jump on our team and try that first. And we don't just add people to add them. We want people that we know could be successful on their own, but they're choosing a team and just a different way of doing it. It's not, you couldn't be successful on your own or with a team. They could be successful either way, but we're choosing to work together as a team because we believe it's the best model. And this person was like, I want to try this with y'all before I get out of real estate, and a great person. And I remember him sharing the debt the first time, and he felt like, yeah, no, that's going to take a long time. And it was like putting together a 5-year plan. And then 1 year later, all that debt was paid off. And it's like, dude, you did it, man. I mean, getting to share that with either a trip somebody wanted to take or a car or college debt, but even having somebody that worked at a church previously for 7 years and they joined our team. In the first 6 months, this one stuck with me for sure, is I've grown closer to God on this team in the first 6 months than the previous 7 years that I was working in a church. And so to do those things, that's what we're talking about. That means way more than sales. So those are some wins.
Man, that's impactful. Like, talk about changing somebody's life, you know, which is a heavy responsibility that it's hard to keep all of that in perspective. But man, that's really what's at stake, is as a business owner and leader, like, you get to coach this group of people and make a huge impact.
Yeah. And on the front side of those, those are the fun stories. On the front side of those, a lot of times it's, hey, I think I'm gonna have to quit and get another job. It's like, man, you can. I'm telling you, you're right there. I don't know if you see that graphic all the time where somebody's like digging for gold.
Oh yeah. And
it's under the ground that they can't see. It's just like a couple more shovels.
Yeah.
A couple more hits against the rock to break through. And then like, I'm done. I quit. And in sales, that you're right there, and it takes time to build. It takes time to build trust and a name and get the knowledge base and database and all these things that you reach out to on a regular basis to help and build a pipeline. But when it starts to hit, it's rewarding of, okay, now I'm seeing some first wins, some first fruits. And those are the hard things to get through so you can see the debt paid off, or the car, or that vacation you got to take, or you got to pay for something for your parents that they couldn't pay for, whatever that looks like.
Okay. So what are you most excited about now? I mean, obviously you get to make this huge impact on your team. And part of coaching is sharing this vision for, what the future is going to look like if we work the plan. So what does that vision look like for the Whisenhunt group? What's the vision that you're helping lead your team towards?
Yeah. So here's the raw and realness I'll give you today is we've developed some amazing people in the past and we weren't able to keep them. And at some point it's like, man, thank you so much. I learned all this and now maybe I can go apply it and start my own thing. And that's been a challenge, right? And I'm so happy for a bunch of those people. And yet I'm saying, okay, how do I need to get better as a leader and elevate people and make sure not just, because a lot of times it's not finances that somebody's saying, I want more money. I want more money. At some point it's, but I want to share my knowledge. I want to help people. I want to coach. I want to train. I want to help hire. I want to develop this culture. All these different facets that people can impact and do better than I can. So the next piece really in vision is that as we grow up these leaders, that we're able to retain them, to continue to grow the team in numbers so that we get more of the stories that's, man, I bought my first investment property and I thought I would never own a house. Now I own my primary house and I own an investment property. Like I never thought that would be my life. And then before you know it, they own 5 or whatever it is. And that's what I want to see for our team is leaders helping build up other leaders and how I'll judge success, so to speak, from the future is who's for us, it's faith-based a lot. Who's getting closer to God? That's multiplying their life through friendships, their family, their spouse, their kids. And then how do we see that show up on a business level to show somebody else how to do that? And as I try to do that for everybody, right? We talked about at the very beginning, there's only so many hours in the day. We need multiple people doing that. And they have multiple people and so on. So that would be the vision, man. I'm excited about it.
Leaders, training, building, growing other leaders. You're going to make a big impact chasing that.
Come on. Yeah.
Well, okay. If you had to give one piece of advice to other, maybe business owners getting started or someone going through, right now, it's a tough time. There's not a lot of people that are thriving right now.
Yeah.
What's maybe one piece of business advice that you want to tell our listeners?
Man, I may have to hit a couple, but I hit them quick.
Okay.
But it's key relationships. I mean, a lot of moments you can go back to where it's like that relationship sparked something. You're always one model away or one person away. So as you're evaluating your business, and it's what is the gap? Is that a model or system that we need to implement and that'll get us over the hump or better? Are we just missing a person and we need to go find that person? And to me, it can be that simple sometimes it's one of those two things. So figure out which one it is, run and get that person. And then, there's a stair step to business where you peak out and then a lot of times you plateau. And then it's that question again. So what system or model do we need to implement or what person do we need to implement? And going back and forth between that. And you hear this a lot, but it's stay true to your values. And we could have somebody selling the most houses in Lubbock, but if their values are not aligned with ours, it's like, that's just not going to work. And it doesn't matter how many sales we have. We're not going to align ourselves with that person. So stay true to your values when you get those people to come along. That'd probably be the biggest thing.
I love that. So, we're talking people and processes, just be really intentional in asking that, what are we missing? And then, when we are picking those people, making sure they're a values fit, because building that reputation, building that culture is so difficult and there's so much at stake that you really have to be intentional with that.
Yeah. The last piece I would add is clarity. I mean, I am so guilty of we'll just do more. We'll just work harder. We'll just serve people as best as we can. Like these very vague things instead of getting absolute clarity. It's like, this is where we're heading. Every decision that comes up, does it align with that? Does that get us a step closer to our ultimate goal where we're heading? And every once in a while, that's where I've got to stop and pause and be like, do I really have clarity? Is that still the same place? Or we may have the same place we're going to and want to get there differently, and just having to work through that with teammates. But I think if you don't have clarity, is going to slow the race down big time, and it's going to become a work harder game.
Yeah. And that's one of the things, like you have a coach.
Yeah.
Right. And that's it's kind of one of those soft, fuzzy things of like clarity. Yeah. Whatever. But there's especially as a leader, whenever you're trying to lead a team, if you're trying to tell them and share this vision that like is so ambiguous and fluffy and just not clear, people can't follow that.
Yeah.
And if people are confused or, whatever, like they're not going to follow you. They are going to have ambiguity. They're going to have uncertainty. And, you just have to fight for that as a leader and as a business owner. And I love how intentional you are to do that, whether it's asking yourself questions every week or the fact that you do have a coach. That's incredible. All right. We're getting close to the end of time. I got a couple of kind of our quick, I don't know what we're going to call this yet. I need to come up with a name for it, but kind of a fire round of questions. What's your top 3 favorite books that people don't know about?
Man, number 1 easily is Shoe Dog.
Oh yeah.
You say people don't know about. I don't know if that one's real well known or not, but man, I mean, Nike just shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
And now it's the, world superpower of sports clothing, shoes, whatever you want to call it. It's an amazing story. So
he's like the Forrest Gump of shoes.
That's a good way to put it.
His story. Yes. Love that. Okay. Yeah.
So that's number 1. I probably read it a couple of times, listened to it 3 or 4 times. I love it because it incorporates sports as well, but business and sports. Man, number 2, Dream Big by Bob Goff is one that I really enjoy. Bob Goff's like easy read, right? You talk about great stories.
Oh yeah.
You're just like, that's amazing. He did that.
Oh yeah.
Why did I think of that? That's so simple. Or, so he inspires me in a different kind of way where a shoe dog is like a driven, competitive, don't give up, grind it out type way. And on this other hand, you have a Dream Big. It's like, am I being intentional and loving people well? Am I giving enough margin in my life for those people? Asking those questions and reflecting. Am I creating my own stories with my kids and wife? So that's another great one. And then I'll go with the one that I mentioned earlier. It's a challenge. I don't know if it's one of my favorite, but Unoffendable.
Unoffendable. Okay, that's a new one. I haven't heard that one.
Hansen.
Okay.
It's just talking about how do we stay in a state that we just stay unoffended, because right now being offended is like America's pastime. Everybody wants to jump to a side so quick.
It's exhausting.
Be mad about that.
Yeah.
Or you go to dinner with somebody and it's like, what are all the bad things we can talk about? And the last restaurant we went to, how wrong it was, or I flew this weekend and everything that was wrong with flying this weekend. And I'm offended this person said this at work. And it's like, man, if we could just take a step back and stop being offended by so many things, and how Jesus lived his life. And in response to a lot of things that came at him, he just had questions back, right? And gaining clarity. We go to clarity again, understanding a situation, staying curious, not assuming a lot of things. So that book is a challenge for me that every once in a while, if I feel myself being like, golly, those people are so, what is wrong with them? I'm like, I need to listen to that book. I'm going to listen to a couple chapters. So I go to that one probably once every couple months just to listen to a chapter or 2.
All right. I'm adding that one to the list.
Yeah.
And then, other brain buster. What is one piece of technology that you use that has been impactful and may be something that a lot of people don't know about? Technology can be such a nuisance, but it is a tool and can be impactful if it's put in that place. So what's a piece of technology that you use that people need to know about?
Nothing I say is going to be mind-blowing here.
That's okay. It's a safe space.
Man, pinning text are huge for me.
What is that?
When you pin a text.
Okay. I've never done that.
Okay. You can like drag the text to the top and it creates the bubbles. And so if I want to make sure I get back to somebody for the end of the day, I look at all my pinned texts or bubbles at the top. And so I do not miss a return phone call or return text because if it's unread, it can get also slid down the list. So I'll pin the text. That's been a game changer for me. Pin it, mark it unread. You don't know about
I've never done that. Yes. I've never done that.
Okay. Show you my phone when we're done.
Okay.
And just digital reminders if they're on my laptop and my phone and whatever. Again, I'm kind of a freak about communication, or I want to be. I don't want to drop the ball on something. And so having reminders. A fun one, I guess, with the kids, Dribble Up, right? Basketball app.
Mm-mm.
So it has like a chip in the ball.
Mhm.
And so they put the iPad on the ground and they're trying to hit these certain boxes. And it makes
Okay.
it fun for them. But also in the winter, when they're not outside as much, we allow kids to dribble the ball in the house, right? It's early on one thing where I think they just got old enough and Abby's like, oh, y'all don't dribble the ball in the house. Like, hey, we're going to have to talk about that rule. I mean, a lot of dribbling in the house, I think. So anyway, we allow our kids to dribble all over the place, but that app is like cool because they're trying to hit certain boxes, crossing over between the legs, behind the back, whatever it is.
Okay.
It's fun, man. Integrating technology in sports.
Okay. I need to check that one out.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay. Well, how can people get in touch with you? How can people do business with you?
Yeah. So on Facebook, we're Lubbock Homes, the Whisenhunt group, right? Same thing on Instagram. I was told the other day, I was like, well, we have to have TikTok. And they said, we do have TikTok. So we're out there somewhere on TikTok.
Okay. Are you dancing out there?
Yeah, probably making some video.
Noted.
My email, colew@kw.com. And then I'm always open to private messages online or whatever and share my cell phone with people. So, man, if you're a business leader in Lubbock, outside of Lubbock, a friend, anything that we could talk about, I know that if I sit here and ask you these questions, I'd learn so much. I just love going to lunch with people and catching up. So helping each other.
I love it.
Yeah. Thanks for asking.
Man, thank you. That was fun conversation. There's so much my head spin. I need to collect my thoughts, but man, thank you for being you. Thank you for being authentic. And man, I appreciate it.
Yeah. I love that word, authentic. It describes you and what you stand for. Like even the interview, just being able to have an easy, simple conversation, right? So we've got a lot of great people, business leaders in the city that we live in.
Mm-hmm.
Super cool. So to be able to get together and talk about stuff like this and learn from each other is awesome, man. Thank you for having me on.
You bet, dude.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was a fun conversation. I hope you got as much out of it as I did. Cole really challenged me in a lot of ways, especially as a dad, in keeping things in their proper place and in proper priority. And so I hope you got a lot out of it. If you enjoyed the podcast and you want more like that, if you want to continue to learn, to continue to get to be a better business owner and leader, go ahead and click subscribe to our podcast and come back for the next one. Thank you.